Susan's hot flashes hit like Sydney heatwaves, unpredictable, brutal. 50 years old, sweating through beach BBQs, she almost snapped a barista for lukewarm coffee. Then a stranger slid a steaming mug across counter. Dandelion tea, she winked. Saved my mum's sanity. Odd, sure, but vibes were cosmic. That first sip. Golden. By week's end, Susan signed up for a herbal workshop, clutching her new lucky mug like a lifeline. Menopause hadn't broken her, it led her. Susan's hot flashes hit like Sydney heatwaves, unpredictable, brutal. 1 minute she'd be fine, next she'd fan herself with a grocery receipt, sweat pooling where her sunglasses slid down her nose. 50 felt less like a milestone and more like a misstep, like tripping over Bondi's uneven pavements in thongs. Her deepest fear. Becoming invisible, fading like a sun-bleached beach umbrella left too long in a December storm. Then came herbal tea workshop at tucked-away Surrey Hills Cafe, its walls lined with jars of golden dandelion roots. Susan hesitated. What if it was just another wellness gimmick, all vibes and no relief? But clutching her chipped blue mug, same one she'd used for instant coffee during 3 a.m. feedings decades ago, she took a sip. Warmth spread, not just from tea but from quiet camaraderie of women nodding as instructor praised Dandelion's stubborn magic. Weeks later, Susan swapped midnight sweats for sunrise walks, her mug steaming as she passed joggers on Coogie's coastal path. Hot flashes still came, but softer, like waves receding low tide. She even hosted a barbecue, tossing snags on grill without worrying about flaming cheeks, metaphorical or otherwise. Menopause hadn't vanished, but neither had she. And that, she realized while watching kookaburras laugh from a gum tree, was victory enough. Susan's hot flashes hit like Sydney heatwaves, unpredictable, brutal. 1 minute she'd be fine, next she'd fan herself with a grocery receipt while strangers edged away. 50 felt less like a milestone, more like a malfunction. Then, on a whim, she ducked into a tiny herbal tea workshop tucked behind a surf shop in Bondi. Vibes were earthy, staff barefoot. A woman with silver braids handed her a steaming mug, dandelion root, golden as afternoon sun on sand. First sip tasted like dirt. Second sip. Less dirt. By third, warmth spread through her, not oppressive kind, but something steady, like low tide smoothing jagged rocks. That mug became her anchor. She learned to steep patience alongside petals, to stir in curiosity instead of frustration. Mornings began with ritual, watching sunrise over Coogee Beach, thermos in hand, waves whispering secrets she was finally ready to hear. Backyard BBQs changed too. Where she once hid behind oversized sunglasses, now she swapped recipes for moon cycle tonics with neighbors. One even confessed she'd been stealing Susan's discarded dandelion greens from compost bin. Laughter bubbled up, light as chamomile foam. Not every day was zen. She once mistook cayenne for cinnamon, spent an evening fanning her mouth like a startled cockatoo. But missteps became part of brew, proof she was still mixing it up, still learning. By summer's end, that humble mug held more than tea. It carried quiet rebellion against idea that women should fade as they ripen. Susan didn't just sip her way through menopause, she steeped herself in a new kind of power, one that bloomed stubborn and bright as weeds through cracks in pavement. Susan's hot flashes hit like Sydney heatwaves, unpredictable, brutal. 1 minute she'd be fine, flipping snags of beach barbecue, next, sweat pooled under her sunglasses, mascara fleeing south. 50 years old and her body had become a trader with terrible timing. She'd tried everything, cold showers, fancier fans, even yoga poses that made her feel like a pretzel with regrets. Nothing stuck. Then, scrolling past ads for miracle cures, all featuring women half her age frolicking through meadows, she stumbled on a herbal tea workshop in Newtown. Dandelion root for hormonal balance, description promised. Creator snorted. Sounded like hippie nonsense. But desperation had a way of making skeptics sip strange brews. Workshop vibes were equal parts earthy and awkward. Glass jars lined shelves like a science lab run by a witch. Creator clutched her chipped blue mug, same one she'd used for decades, surviving grad school, breakups, now this, and listened as instructor praised Dandelion's resilience. Weeds that thrive anywhere, she said. Woman smirked. Fitting. First sip of tea tasted like dirt had a bitter feud with grass. She grimaced but kept going. Weeks passed. Mornings began with that mug steaming between her palms, ritual replacing dread. Flashes didn't vanish, but their edges softened, like waves pulling back from shore. She noticed other shifts too, joints less creaky, sleep deeper. Maybe it was placebo. Maybe it was magic. Didn't matter. One evening, watching sunset paint Bondi pink, Susan laughed herself, all that resistance over a damn weed. Menopause hadn't bowed to her stubbornness, but neither had she to its chaos. Mug in hand, she toasted Dandelion's quiet rebellion. Some battles weren't about winning, just outlasting. And Susan? She'd always been good that. Susan's hot flashes hit like Sydney heatwaves, unpredictable, brutal. One minute she'd be fine, next she'd fan herself with a menu Bondi Beach BBQs, praying no one noticed sweat trickling down her neck. 50 years old and suddenly her body had its own chaotic agenda. Then she stumbled onto Dandelion tea. Skeptical but desperate, she brewed her first cup in a chipped blue mug, half expecting another wellness fad to flop. But vibes shifted. Flashes dulled. Nights weren't sweat-soaked marathons anymore. That mug became her anchor, morning ritual, rebellion against helplessness. When a flyer for an herbal tea workshop caught her eye, creator scoffed. Huh. Teaching. She'd burned toast last week. Yet there she stood 3 Saturdays later, elbows deep in dried roots, explaining Dandelion's magic to a room of skeptical women. One attendee, a no-nonsense pharmacist, folded her arms, eyebrow arched. Prove it. Creator poured steaming tea into sample cups, hands steady despite her racing heart. Pharmacist sipped. Paused. Sipped again. Huh. That single syllable cracked room open. Laughter bubbled as she fumbled measuring spoons, tiny goof, big charm, before nailing a perfect brew. Someone snapped a photo, silver-haired newbie guru, mug raised like a trophy, backlit by Sydney sun. By sundown, her phone buzzed non-stop. Shot had blown up, local moms groups, then global menopause forums. Strangers D-Med, how'd you do it? Susan grinned her reflection in empty mug. This was her start. No more hiding. Just steam, guts, and a weed most people stomped on. She turned it into lifeline. Crowd roared, so did she. Susan's hot flashes hit like Sydney heatwaves, unpredictable, brutal. But Dandelion tea became her secret weapon, a humble mug of golden rebellion against sleepless nights and mood swings. 50, she refused to vanish into menopause cliches. Instead, she turned her kitchen into a lab, blending herbs with same focus she once reserved for beach BBQs, equal parts precision and chaos. When a local cafe hosted an herbal tea workshop, Susan showed up, not as a student but as an accidental guru. Women leaned in as she guided them through steeping rituals, her voice steady as harbor tides. That chipped mug, once just a vessel, became a symbol, cracked but holding warmth, just like her. Laughter bubbled up as she confessed her odd habit of naming plants, so roots a lot, anyone. Months later, her living room morphed into a sanctuary. Strangers turned friends sipped remedies, swapping stories under fairy lights. Susan's menopause wasn't an ending, it was a damn renaissance. She'd built a tribe with roots deeper than dandelions, proving creativity could outgrow any crack in pavement. So here's your nudge, sister, steep your rebellion. Sip it slow. Let life bloom wild.